Zone 1, Zone 2, Zontiga. My name is Edmond.
And I'm Lau.
Welcome back to our channel. And today we're having an in-session segment episode with a special guest. Who is it?
Hello, I'm Kevin.
So today we also at Chinatown, Kuala Lumpur, and we're going to do street photography together, right?
Yeah, we're going to shoot some street today.
And at the end of the video, we're having a conversation interview with Kevin Lim. So now let's go and shoot street photography.
Yeah, let's go and shoot the street. Let's go.
Is there anything that you are interested on the street?
For me, the most interesting thing about street photography, or my pertinent salient point, would be relationships. It's important that the mind recognizes something in relation to something else. So if we're looking at light, then we're looking at shadow, light. If we're looking at a human being, it's the human being in the immediate environment. And in the immediate environment, I mean, we are looking at the structures next to the person itself, and whether the relationship that creates something that is unfamiliar. Key to street photography is defamiliarization of what we know as normal. To execute that, we need places that have interesting backgrounds. So I compose anyway, from back to front. So no matter how interesting a subject is, the relationship between the subject and the background is, for me, paramount. Yeah.
Okay, just to show our viewers, because some of our audience love cameras. What camera do you use?
Oh my God. I'm actually doing some workshops with Fujifilm at the moment, and just out of fun, I brought a very old camera. It's a 12-year-old Fujifilm X100.
Is this the first X100?
It is, yeah.
Oh, it's still working.
Still working because it's only used for very casual shots, but it's very slow. But it suits my style. The wait and see. Of course, we all like to go for the instantaneous shot. Like Edmond here, he goes for the rapid fire. So he's a hunter, and I'm a fisherman. So it's I used to be like that too, but over time, age has caught up, and I've become a bit more contemplative in my approach to photography. And this camera suits that perfectly.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, in mid of 2023, I joined your sharing talk in the Bukit Bintang, and you shared that one of the reasons that why you shoot Fujifilm cameras is that they are soft or portable, and you can use it until they are broken, and then you can just put it aside, buy a new one, shoot it until it's broken, buy a new one. When you sit there, it's like, oh, shit, this is quite cheap because I shoot with a Leica, and Leica is expensive, if it rocks out, you spend another 10 or 20,000 to buy another one.
Indeed, yes.
The camera is just a tool, okay? Don't be too serious about it.
Very serious. I mean, historically, very serious photographers like Gary Winogrand and the like, Eugene Smith. I mean, they have films that are still unprocessed to this day. So imagine the amount of shots that were taken. So Cartier-Bresson himself said, 10,000 shots. Your photography improves after the 10,000 shots. Now with modern cameras, we don't have the burden of the price of film. So we basically shoot to exhaustion. Key is to take as many photographs of the same subject or profile as possible, if you can. Of course, there will be the chance shot, and that just it's a gift. Okay? It's a gift. And the universe smiles upon us when it happens. and it's something that all photographers want, and it's a holy grail. The holy grail of street photography is that moment. But that moment doesn't come until we ourselves are ready, because we love enough, we share enough. Like this channel, we are sharing, and I firmly believe that the essence of street photography comes with sharing what we know, so that people can understand our work. If we don't curate our work and share it strong enough, and read more, love more, laugh more, listen to some jazz maybe, the world will be a very poor place. Thank you. If you are following the old school of making photographs, or rather the philosophical idea of making, say, surreal street photographs, there's a principle within surrealism known as metamorphosis or transformation. So here we have a gentleman with a cap, and then he's effectively transformed himself by wearing this particular cap. So that's not his real hair, but it looks fairly surreal. So
Actually, I didn't realize it's a hat. I thought it's a hair.
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So that when the image fits that particular principle, then you're addressing it. So it's a acknowledgement of that particular principle. So certain photographers who are inclined to the old school of thinking will see straight. Otherwise, this is the novel thing, but it actually has a deeper significance. That's what I do.
So we are back from shooting street photography at Chinatown KL with Kevin Lim and Mr. Lau, and we are now at Stella Cafe. Shout out to Stella for having us here.
Yeah, for letting us to use the space. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a great pleasure to have you with us today, Kevin.
Thank you, Edmond.
So we have prepared.
It's not every day we can have him. He's just flew back from overseas, and soon he will be going back again.
Yes.
But we are fortunate to manage to catch hold of him.
Yeah. So we have prepared some questions to interview you for our audience today.
Okay.
So one of the first question is, how long have you been shooting street photography?
Street photography, my goodness, 1980.
Wow.
1980. So yeah.
20, 40 years?
40
years,
yeah.
So
maybe just also tell us a bit about your background, how you started. You're from Malaysia and now you're living overseas as well. Just a bit of that before.
I've been shooting since I was 8 years old, would you believe? So I've been shooting for a long time. But street photography was something that I picked up when I was in London. Back in the day, we would see people walking around, young people walking around in London with usually the Leica M3.
Wow.
And we used to wonder, why are the people walking around with small little cameras, when the camera of the time would be, say, a Nikon, either the F2 or the F3, mostly F2s and 3s. There was the camera of choice, wider choices of lenses and everything else. But somehow the small form factor of the Leica sort of was very attractive to me. And when I inquired, they say, well, let's open up a whole world of possibilities for you in the way you see everyday life. That's it. Yeah, for me, the first impression I got from street photography was Robert Duano's wonderful pictures of the lovers in Paris. That for me was sealed the deal for me. And I was introduced a bit later to the work of Robert Mapplethorpe, and although it wasn't street photography, but again it opened another avenue of thinking in terms of what possibilities we can have as photographers, you know. So from shock factors to just everyday street life, very appealing to me.
So you have been traveling all around the world, and you have shoot many cities.
Yes.
Is there one city that you have hold the most impression of?
Kuala Lumpur is actually a very good city for street. I always say to people, you know, if you ever consider visiting Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, very good for street.
Okay.
Secondly, I think if you're looking at Europe, I would say Porto, maybe in Portugal, extremely wonderful for street. London, of course, goes without saying. Rome can be a bit tough because there are a lot of tourists around. But the backdrop is fabulous. You know, so in terms, if you want architecture, if you are referring to a classical look with a strong structural background, Rome. If you want scenes of Asia, Malaysia can't be beat. If you want a cosmopolitan place, then you're looking at London. Porto is very old world. It's a bit like Malacca actually for me, Porto. And
very small.
Very small, very intimate, and very friendly. Camera friendly. They love street photography, and people there just have a very good time. But Asia-wise, a lot of people consider Kuala Lumpur a good place to shoot. So you're in a good place, huh?
Kuala Lumpur, there's many cultures.
Yes.
And there's many cultural festivals.
Yeah.
Many very diverse characters on the streets.
Yes.
So
But what actually makes you go? You are from Malaysia, right? And you're now based in Ireland.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about your journey.
Yeah,
How from here and all the way to
right.
there. And then you started photography there, as you mentioned. You started shooting street. Not in KL, but in London.
Correct.
What makes you pick up that interest? And your profession or something else, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah. So for me, street was an avenue to be curious and nosy, and also to explore without being rude. So it was an excuse to get close to people and to explore your curiosity without somebody saying, "Hey, why are you staring at?" You know. So the camera provided this particular shield for me. Being Malaysian, you know, when you first explore, or when you're first sent overseas to do your studies, as I was, I was a shy boy. So the camera was a bit of a mask, so to speak, and it allowed me to get close to people, and people usually, back in the day, responded very positively to anyone with a camera. The key things that they talk about that a young man should have in their lives during those days, you know, a cigarette lighter, a camera, a good pair of shoes. Very important. And the world is a social playground. You know? So I spent a lot of time in London. I lived in London for a good many years. I was in the UK for nearly 20 years. I met my wife there, and we returned back to Malaysia for a further 20 years. And I'm now in Ireland now for the last 5 years. So it has been a long journey, but photography has been my constant companion, and I see it as just an extension of art. We as human beings have always been image making since, well, ancient times, really. I mean, if you're looking at cave paintings in Sulawesi, for example, Neanderthal, it seems. Okay, Neanderthal, 45,000 years old. So the mark making tradition of being a human being has always been there. We make marks everywhere. So photography is really mark making in the modern sense. We mark make with writing, we mark make with coding. It's a language, you know? And what we do is, when we see something, we understand. When we understand, we want to share. It's a natural human feeling or tendency to share. And when we share, the best way we share when we're no longer there is to make a mark. And photographs is just the most modern manifestation of that mark making process. And what easier way now? Even young children now have cameras on their phones. It's so accessible. Of course, if we can afford a better camera, all the better. But most of the time, brands are really just another way of signaling prestige, your position in life. But ultimately, at the end of the day, a small little camera is always discreet and good for street, because you really don't want to be imposing on somebody with a long telephoto lens. And phone cameras have a peculiar restriction, I think, when it comes to street, because when you shoot someone with a phone camera, they may feel that you're going to be posting that particular picture online very, very quickly, and they don't like to be mocked. People don't like to be mocked. So we got to make them feel comfortable. So when we are in the street, we try to be as discreet, but occasionally we don't succeed. But it's okay. It's just part of the process. Sometimes we get shouted at. Sometimes people say no to us. But most of the time, 90% of the time, we get the shot we want. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
It was very good. Thanks for sharing that.
Very good answer. Yeah.
Good questions. Very good questions. Thank you.
So, what is your philosophy on photography? What photography fascinated you the most?
Okay, for me personally, photography is a way to critically analyze the world in which we live in. I don't disagree that we should make shots that because we like it. That's a particular statement that most photographers will give. So why do you make that shot? Oh, I like it. Fine. But more when we are sharing, to get a particular so-called signature, we are looking at then at a more intentional photograph. So in my own photographic life, we all start off like, oh look, there's a lovely tree, let's take a photograph of that. Oh look, there's a lovely person walking in front of a building, let's take a photograph of that. But as we grow in photography, we want to share our intention, and that requires a certain kind of nuance and understanding of language. Mr. Lau comes from a particular background where particular language is required. We as people in Malaysia speak multi-languages. We are multilingual. Photography is no different. It's just mark making, and like words and letters that we write to form words that go to our brain and become sound, that eventually translates back to an image, because the brain, as Aristotle said, thinks of the world in images. A thought starts with an image. So how do we best translate that particular thought into an image that can be shared in a language that others can understand? And that requires a certain amount of nuance and a certain understanding of how structures work within a photograph to tell that properly. It's not too long-winded, is it?
But very good analogy. I like it so much. When it's like the form and you're talking about those things. Very, very good.
So your street photograph has been pretty much always been in black and white.
Yes.
And maybe for some of our viewers, they would like to know why you choose black and white, and have you tried color street photography before?
Oh yes, I think everybody. In my day, it was really this. The color photography has taken root quite strongly. Late 70s, it really took off, and color processes were a bit rough, but okay. But I was influenced by the fact that the older generation of photographers just focus on black and white, and it just looks, how can I say, more homogeneous. And I'm quite lazy, So for me, black and white provides a uniformity. So you look at you click on my Instagram or my Facebook, it's just okay. Pictures taken 5 years ago look the same kind of now. So it's kind of timeless. And I referenced when I was going through my journey in photography, I was looking at works by the painters like Itten, Bauhaus School, Kandinsky, and I was looking at again another Bauhaus master, Joseph Albers, and his wife, and they did a lot of studies on color, and color is very unstable. Most men, i.e. 1 in 12, are colorblind fully, and a large degree of them are also colorblind to some spectrum, some degree, which is the norm. Women, about 200 to 1. So women are less prone to color blindness. And I find that if sometimes we process, we ourselves may not know, or that we have some kind of a degree of color imbalance within our system. After all, it's just electromagnetic waves.
Do you know this fact?
Yeah.
That colorblind actually occurs more on men than women.
I think I heard before. I have a tiny bit of colorblind.
Yeah. So in terms of on that particular aspect itself, we've got a bit of a issue. I have a bit of an issue with say if I were to present something and the message may not go through clearly, because the colors itself have 7 types of contrast, saturation, then you've got things like inversion, projection. Say for example you put a yellow on top of a blue, the yellow projects itself. You put a blue on a yellow, it diminishes and it recedes, So the painters of the day, particularly Cézanne, and most of the painters understood this really well. But as photographers, we don't understand color theory that strongly, and we may not know that just because there's a scene in front of us, when we make a photograph, like for example over there we got reds and yellows and blues. The red will come forward, and the yellow will come forward, and the blue will recede. But really, the primary subject is blue, so it becomes recessive, and that spoils the entire picture in terms of its strength. So rather than go into color photographs, which may in some way dilute my message or confuse the viewer, I choose not to use color in that sense, as a philosophical move in terms of my own work. I do like color work, but I have some color pictures that are quite sometimes with street photography is accidental. Really good street photographs are accidental, and
there are certain elements
and that's the deepest and most wonderful thing about street photography is that element of chance, that element of luck, which falls into very squarely on the plate of the surrealist photographer. The surrealist photographers, or the surrealist movement, one of the primary modus operandi was chance and luck played a very important part in their thinking. They had automatic writing those days. They had ways of falling asleep with coins in their hands, and when they fell, the coins would fall on the floor on tins, making a noise, and they would wake up immediately and write and draw. So this kind of elements are very important in the life of a surrealist. Cartier-Bresson himself said, the camera, what machine can be the most what machine is better than a camera to create an automatic image, So the fact that it's done immediately on the moment automatically makes it the perfect surrealist machine. So in that sense, we're talking about color, black and white hits very strongly, and there's only 2 elements you need to focus on, which is basically the structure and the patterns within, lines, form, shapes, and really tonality and movement. That's it. And less to think about, clearer. It's like writing on a piece of paper. You can use multicolored pens and write a same essay, and it look very, very messy, as opposed to writing with a black pen on white paper. I always reference Ellsworth Kelly. Ellsworth Kelly is an artist who used to draw with pencil, just lines. He's a good artist, but he has a whole series of works with apples and such like, and just line drawings, just to reiterate that nothing is better than a clear figure, subject to background. So if it's a white background, we use dark foreground in terms of the subject matter. If the subject matter is white or light, then we go for a darker background. So first thing to think about when we are making an image is strong contrast. So of your subject to the background itself. So for me, the background is very, very important, because that will determine what I do with the subject. If the background is dark, I will wait for a light subject. If the background is light, I'll wait for a dark subject to have a strong contrast. Just like writing on a paper. You will never write with your felt tip pen that's white on a white piece of paper. Yet photographers who are not clear about giving the message will just snap it, and then it's a waste. Such a waste.
You need to have more of a thought processor.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and after a while that becomes automatic. And, like, you know,
Become muscle
Edmond,
memory.
Yes. It's
And contrast is important because you need to show that there is actually dynamic in there.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
There's the ups and downs, just like story, right? There's
It is,
ups
yeah.
and downs.
Yeah.
Even if you listen to music, there's intro, there's
Correct.
there's
Yeah.
the
Yes. It's movement.
it is movement
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
And there's also questions and response. So in your craft, in a way,
Yeah.
you also have to inject some of those elements, right?
Yes, very strongly.
Using light to bring out questions and response, movement, dynamism,
Yes.
storytelling.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like your answers on linking this to a lot into the art perspective, right? Surrealism and all that.
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Very good.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And because you are a very well established photographer in international and local,
Yes.
is there someone in your journey that helped you to get where you are right now?
In terms of a person who's alive, you mean?
Alive or dead, or to help you to get where you are right now?
Yes.
Anyone that influences you,
Or help
anyone
you on
that
the
kinda
journey.
helped you in your journey.
Yes, I think we all have our heroes in terms of models that we study from books or pictures. You know, most street photographers will reference the Cartier-Bresson and people from that era. And then moving forward, nowadays you got Matt Stewart and people like that. You go to America. Now the American school of street photography, and as opposed to the Australian school, say, or the European school, they make very, very different images. So again, it's key, I think, for young people or people going into street or established in the street to actually find which area they're comfortable with. For me, it was always the French school, the original school. The humanistic element. So it was always like Brassai, Bresson, Duano, and people like that. And kind of like because I adopted it young, it kind of stuck there. So as much as I would like to say West Coast kind of a photography from America or New York style, I can't do it. I can't do it. So I find that I'm unable to move in that particular vein of thought. Or you look at the Australian side, again, a lot of layers between the legs, and you can see. So I don't do that. They do it for I'm sure they have the reasons that particular style took off. So I'm more European in my approach. And because I consider myself fundamentally a surrealist, so I'm a bit of a Francophile that way, you know. And philosophically, I enjoy reading French philosophy. I enjoy reading German philosophy, Austrian school of thought. I'm very much a von Mises kind of guy, you know, in terms of, say, economics. The surrealist slant is fairly, how can I say, it's about the other. So we are talking about other people. So when I'm making a photograph, I am representing the other person who will inform me of myself. So when I make a photograph, the concept of the other, Husserl's work on phenomenology, you know. So the phenomenology. So we talk about the other. So the only way to know ourselves is through the eyes of the other. The Chinese have a philosophy that says that we cannot smell our own nose, we cannot hear our own ear, we cannot see our own back of our head, and yet we criticize others, you know. So the only person who can tell us about those things are other people. And in street photography, I explore that, and it's been a long journey of exploration, and that's my take. So every photograph I make is to inform me of myself through the other, and I make it through photographs.
So in your 40 years of
You're talking about who in others?
it's another question.
Okay.
Okay. So, in your 40 years of street photography, have you ever been in a rut? It's like you have no motivation to go out taking photograph.
Yeah.
And how did you overcome it?
I must say, I have never been in a rut.
Wow.
Okay, never. Okay, creatively, my mind has never been a desert as far as that's concerned. You know, see, the world is for me an oasis. All right, an oasis of weirdness. In fact,
so you're always fascinating to everything that around you.
So once we,
your sensory is strong.
In terms of adopting that particular mindset of surrealism, it opens up all sorts of possibilities. You know, the surrealistic thought is really okay. I see this now. How can I defamiliarize that? That's why we enjoy going overseas, because it's the sameness with a difference, you know. So the food looks the same, but when I try it, it tastes different. Or say, you know, or the drink looks the same, and I try it, it's different. And you go to the menu downstairs, and they got so many varieties of coffee. Coffee, but with a difference. So street is a bit like that. It's the unfamiliar in the familiar. So the mythology is that street photography sees invisible things. That's not true. More is like we see things like unlike other people. So René Magritte always maintained that we should look at the familiar and deconstruct it. So that's the essence of street photography. So hence, when you look at surrealistic works in paintings or even in literature, in poetry, for example, we don't have to see everything. Because the mind will make up the difference. After all, vision occurs within our brain. There's no banana in my head when I look at a banana. It's just electromagnetic thought.
So adjust the mic.
Adjust the mic. The mic for. Oops.
Is that okay? Yeah. So. So the key is that we to respect our audience. We also assume that they are like us. You know, they can understand what we are trying to say, but we make it as clearly as possible. So if you take a shot of someone from the back, say for example, some photographers will criticize you. Hey, why did you take the person from the back? That's not street photography. You should taking the face and so on. But it's a lack of understanding actually, because for example in Germany there's a concept called Rückenfigur. Rückenfigur is actually a very strong methodology. Paintings were actually constructed or painted in such a way that you only saw the back of a person very strongly, you know, and that person in the frame itself represents the everyday man. So they actually practice it as a matter of fact. And if you look at the works by the masters of the days of Bresson and Guano and people like that, a lot of backshots, as a homage or acknowledgement that yes, it's very much okay to create a backshot. Because once you look at someone over the shoulder, you're within the scene already. You've penetrated the frame. So the frame, the wall that is there, in what is an object of a photograph, is no longer in existence. You've actually immersed yourself into the frame and you see the back of the human being.
So I see that you have been in many photo awards, like especially as a judge and jury members. Is there anything particular that you would like to see in a photographer work? How's the photo creation works, and is there any tips you could give to photographers on how they could submitting their photos?
Right. Okay. Now, first things first. Number one, there are two types of competitions, or there are two types of galleries. One is a vanity gallery. All right. So people pay, and then your work is in the gallery. Okay? So look at me. My work's been selected. But because you paid, of course, it'll be there. There are a lot of awards which are also motivated by money. So you submit a fee and so on and so forth. Then you go, then you get nominated and so on and so forth. And then there are those that are legitimate. So photo festivals globally, in terms of street photography, photo festivals are fairly legit. Okay? The key is to understand which festival to partake in. Like the one I was recently in, the Dublin Street Festival, because it's new, And I'll tell you why very shortly. Why it was so amazing was because the submissions were so outstanding in terms of contributions from everybody around the world. Usually with more established street photography festivals, they have a certain kind of a style or a look that they are keen on. So if the photography is held in Australia, then you can see the submissions and the usual winners of a certain kind. If it's held in Italy, then it's a certain kind. In the US, it will be a certain kind. London used to have it, but they no longer have it now. But different countries will have a different flavor. So the key is to study past winners and see what has been awarded, and to see why the judges chose a certain kind of look for that festival. So again, if you were going to go to, say, a religious place, we won't wear shorts to go in there. We will wear long pants. So different competitions require different approaches, and usually the best judge of that would be to look at past year's winners, and then look at the kind of photographs that did well, and if you can emulate it or your style fits that, enter. If your style is such that if you enter in a particular kind of competition and the judges there don't like that kind of a look, you may not place, and then you will feel disheartened, and then after a while you give up. I would say no. But if one has sufficient resources, just enter everything and try. Why not? Why not?
It costs money, so
Yes.
select, and since it costs money, study it, research a bit.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So say for example, if you're the kind of person who plays sepak takraw, right, or foot or basketball or tennis, you won't go and play in a badminton game. You will automatically be, because you're not playing by a certain kind of, it's all movement on a set perimeter, but different rules. Rules in terms of not being the photo is good or not. The judgment by street photographers globally, they're roughly the same, but it's the kind of look they're looking for. So that's more important. And then the final statement on that would be to treat the world as a museum of very strange things. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for spending time with us.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
I know you say the last questions. I mean the last things, it's not questions, but I would very much want to thank you for generously sharing.
Yes.
And secondly, those things that you share are very valuable for our viewer.
Thank you.
And if you come back to Malaysia again, I would very much like to invite you to Zontiga
For a talk?
to give a talk to our community.
Yes, I would
we
love
have
to,
a few platforms. Until then, maybe we can select the right platforms for talk. Different. We have 2 locations.
Yes.
So location size also we can be flexible.
Yes, I would be very happy to. Yes, to actually comment on what Mr. Lau said, it's actually very, very important that we curate our work. And the best way to curate our work is to tell other people about our work, because it's a foreign language, and everyone is speaking a different language. So Edmond speaks in a different way, Mr. Lau speaks in a different way, Kevin speaks in a different way, and cameraman speaks in a different way. So, and when we come up with something that looks like an A, it may appear to be B, so for someone who's unfamiliar with your A. So we have to explain to them that actually your B is my A. So, look at it this way. I see. Now I can see the A. So it's very important that we curate our work. But to curate our work, we need to draw on the knowledge of others. In the postmodern world now, knowledge is passed down and passed down again. And it's the same knowledge. And again, I would say, best library in town,
Zontiga Library in PJ.
It is. That's it. Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending your time.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you for watching this episode with Kevin Lim, Mr. Lau, and me. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next episode. Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, Zone out.
Zone out. Bye.
Thank you.